Hello and welcome to Soul Symbols. My name is Shelley. I'm a writer, an astrologer, and a card reader, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. Welcome to part 2 of my tarot deck collection. As you saw in the first video, we talked extensively about the history of the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot, also about Pamela Colman Smith, and kind of the reason why I purchased the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith that I did. The purpose of this video is that I received a request in the comments from one of my watchers, that asked me to go over my tarot collection. To be honest, I was a little scared. I've tried to do a count of all of my tarot decks and it's quite extensive. I do have 18 official tarot decks. And what that is, you know, it started as a very small collection. I really only had 2 decks to start, and then I acquired about 3 more, and then I got my traditional. When I decided that I wanted to go to YouTube and do how to tarot videos, I knew that I needed a Rider-Waite-Smith. And so that collection grew to 18 official tarot decks, and these 18 card decks, that's probably about 1/4 of my total oracle and playing card collection. Now, I definitely do not encourage anyone to invest this much into tarot unless you feel like it. It is definitely a hobby. It's a passion of mine. I used it as expression. It really helped me at a dark time in my life, and I'm very blessed to be able to share this through YouTube with my watchers. So, of course, you know, these are the tools that I use. And that being said, because I am a card reader, it does entail that I use merchandise. I use publications that are almost like books that are produced by publishing houses. I have a great respect for publishing. I am a self-published author. I've had experiences in my life in the last 20 years with my own writings and with, you know, I'm passionate about paper and the archive of words and images and theories. So when I do these type of videos, I just first want to post a disclaimer. I am respectful to all of the artwork that is involved. That is the intellectual property of both the publisher and the artist. And because I use decks as part of my readings, I just, you know, these videos are just to, you know, are reviews of the decks. If you see them posted here, they are part of my collection because they are of wonderful quality, and we will go through and we will talk about the nuances of that. The other thing that I want to say is that I mean no infringement by showing the artwork. It is just requested, you know, by my watchers, and it is encouraged that if you are interested in card reading, you know, this video is for the purpose of you finding the deck that matches your personality and makes you very happy, because that is my goal. You do not need to have 20 decks the way that I do. It is just because I'm a card reader, and, you know, these are the materials that I use. And that being said, all of the names and the authors of the artwork of the publishing houses and the authors and the artists are in the description box, as are the timestamps. Now, this is the second video from a previous video. The previous video, I wanted to go into the history of the Rider-Waite-Smith, because that is very, very important. When you talk about tarot and any extrapolation, we have to go over the history, because there's so many people involved, and it's like this. It is. I think of it as a ripple effect. It was like when the stone first hit the water, of just the perfect combination of someone's spiritual vision and then Pamela Colman's artistic interpretation. Now, that being said, if I am going to be going through and talking about the authors and the decks themselves, sometimes I may be expressing opinions about cardstock or images or what I really think of the deck. The very fact that it's part of my collection is a kudos to you, because it means that this is a very carefully curated group of cards, and I do love them all. I love them all. So please do not take any offense. And again, you know, please click on the timestamp if you want to jump straight to the description of the card in question. We are going from top to bottom and meandering. It goes 1 through 6, you know, 7 through, 12, and then forward. So it goes through. But the last video we talked about the history. I'm not going to go through all the details, but the Rider-Waite-Smith is not the first deck that I got. The very first deck I got here is the Art Nouveau. The second one that I formally learned on was the Morgan Greer. This deck I went with because I knew I had purchased other more creative decks up until this point, but I knew I wanted to do How to Tarot, and I needed to have a very good traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck. If you want more details about it, please see the first video about the history of Rider-Waite-Smith. But what had happened was I had really been scrutinizing it. I'm a self-published author. I know a lot about publishing rights and rules. I wanted a very clear and artistic, I wanted a deck that was true to Pamela Colman Smith's vision of the tarot. She was a suffragette. She was an artist. She was a leader for women's rights, for women's publishing. And if she were here today, I would just, they always say, what historic figure would you like to meet, alive or dead? And I think Pixie would be one of them. But the reason that I went with this deck is because of a post that Mindful Tarot had posted. The video for that is in the description box below. It is a YouTube video that I watched, and her energy. Mindful Tarot is she's a chaplain at a hospital, and she is a Zen teacher, and her energy and her appreciation of this deck really sold me on the deck. The other thing was that this is A.G. Mueller, which is a German company that acquired a Switzerland publishing company. And what happened was Pamela Colman Smith's original artwork for there was a 1909 publishing of the cards that really sold out quickly. In 1910, they did a longer run that had what we call the crackleback. The first run of the deck had the lilies and blue. The second run of the deck, that was, the more commonly found deck, has the crackleback on it. And what it is that publishers try to go with what they call the Pam A, the original version of her artwork. And I wanted a Pam A deck. Now, there are several decks that have come out in years since. Her original artwork was said to be destroyed in World War II. But what happens is, by European publishing rules, 70 years after an author's death, it becomes public use, meaning that anyone can use the artwork without paying the owner of the copyright. The owner of the copyright since the late 60s, early 70s was U.S. Games. And what is interesting is that the artwork, like a lot of things during World War II, mysteriously went missing. But all of a sudden in 2016, and when you look at the timeline of it, A.E. Waite, Arthur Edward Waite, who is the creator of the deck but not the artist, passed away in 1942, which would mean the 70-year cutoff time would be 2012. In 2016, A.G. Mueller, which is a German acquired company of a Switzerland company, showed up with a deck of Pixie's artwork, of Pamela Colman Smith's artwork, but not her font. There's a font at the bottom which we call Pixie font. The deck that I have is by this German company, and it has a Garamond font. It is not Pixie's hand. So that's a sign that they have her artwork, but they don't have her hand artwork, which is in England. So somehow there's a separation between her artwork and her penmanship, right? And it showed up or started to get produced in 2016, which was about 74 years after A.E. Waite had passed. Now, this seems like a little bit of a copyright thing because when you look at it, Pamela Colman Smith passed in 1951, which would mean the 70 years cutoff would be 2021. And what's happening is I think there's a legal battle going on here. I think A.G. Mueller went forward with the A.E. Waite because there was a patriarchy at the turn of the century where they're going with the right of expiration from the death of A.E. Waite. But either way, and I'm not trying to fuel into the fire because I care a lot about copyrights. You can see I'm all into this. I went with the clear deck because I wanted a clear image. And what I loved about this deck is that it has very sharp images. There's several videos. I posted it in the first video that talked about the history of Rider-Waite-Smith, but I'm going to post it again here on this video. There are nuances, what we call Pam A, Pam B, Pam C. Pam A is the original version of Pamela Colman Smith's Pixies artwork. And what it is the way that you can tell is there are nuances between the original artwork and later reproductions. And the most important one is on the sun, where you see a little squiggle right there. That is omitted in some reproductions. Also, there are seeds in the sunflower. Also, when you look at the lovers, there's a lot of little telltale signs in the lovers, but mostly is that the lovers, the angel's eyes are supposed to be closed and they're supposed to be kind of pink in color. But it was very important to me that if I decided to start doing tarot readings, that I wanted a very clear and concise deck. And again, if you want the history, or if you want more history about the Thoth, please see the first video that's titled History of Rider-Waite-Smith. But I went with this deck. I was very lucky and I lucked out. What it is that the font is what we call Garamond font. There is something called Pixie font. Pixie font is the actual lettering of Pamela Colman Smith. And unfortunately, I had to do kind of a trade-off. In order to get the artwork that was clear, I had to buy it without her font. So there does seem to be a separation. There seems to be a void between the two prints. And that could be because, again, this is a little bit of conspiracy theory, the plates, when you reproduce artwork, there were plates back in the turn of the century. The plates might have somehow mysteriously been acquired in Europe illegally or possibly legally from the original production of the cards, but it was missing her handwriting, because that was added when it was in England, and that was prior to it being sold to US games. So it's a lot of history. Please check out the first video if you want the whole background. But I wanted clear artwork, so I went with the A.G. Mueller. I lucked out and I went on eBay, and this is the crackle back. It's not the lilies back, but I went on eBay, and what it is that I was able to purchase this for $20, but it was from a Ukraine company, and it was for like $20. It did take 6 weeks with international, boat shipping, but it was well worth it. I did check the other day, and they do still have the same company is available on eBay. So if you search, tarot of A.E. Waite, A.G. Mueller, and again, all the details are in the description box. If you search for that, you can get the English version. That does come also in German and in French. But just be warned, it's very clear images, but the minors do not have the names. It's only the majors. But the majors are not going to have the Pixie font, and if that's important to you, you may want to check out US games. US games, a lot of the versions, and again, please check out the first video if you're considering a traditional RWS deck. But US Games has heard the outcry of a lot of tarot readers. They know that we want the clear original artwork. They are the legal owners of the Pixie font, and they came out in 2019 with a Rider-Waite-Smith clear version. I have not seen this deck. I haven't bought this deck, but there are videos out there. Definitely check out the Mindful Tarot. She is an expert. She actually has an original 1910 version of the tarot deck. She has like 7 versions of like the original tarot deck, and she is an expert on this. So if you check out that, if you are in the market for a new deck, I think US Games, because we are on the brink of that 2021 deadline for copyright ownership, but I bought this deck from the Europe producer because I wanted the artwork. At some point, I do want to get the Pixie font because that is so important. But that's the reason that I bought this deck, and the images that you see are the same images between Pam A, Pam B, Pam C. And again, please check out the first video if you want really in-depth information about why I went with that deck. Also, all the bags you see here, and I'm going to post a picture, I like to sew. So I create bags. There are some decks that both Oracle and Tarot that I keep in the original box, but it's very few of them. It's only like 3 of them. So all the bags here you see I have sewn. Many of them are by hand if it's my original decks. But the bag that I keep my Rider-Waite-Smith is in a coffee bag, and I actually have a little inside pocket that I keep the sunstone. Every time you go to the How to Tarot, and I'm like, oh, I've paired the Rider-Waite-Smith with this beautiful sunstone. It is the same stone, and it's just because, you know what it is? It's because it goes with the crackleback so light and so nicely, and it's actually the only themed bag that I have. It has little coffee all over it because, in addition to tarot, I love coffee. But I made these bags, all of the bags that you see. I'm very proud of them. There's a few of them as we go through that I'll kind of gush over because it's crazy. I got a sewing machine. I had a friend give me a sewing machine, which was so generous. But a lot of them I've made by hand. Now, the second deck that I'm going to go through is again, all of these decks, if you see these decks in my collection, it's because I love them dearly and they are amazing. This deck is by Scarabeo, and to give them credit, if you watched the first video that talked about the history of Rider-Waite-Smith, there is a deck called the Radiant Wise deck. I don't own it, but it's because I've done my due diligence and research, and unfortunately it gets a little bit of a bad reputation. But I just want to redeem, I want to kind of give a verbal redemption to Scarabeo. They are an excellent publication company. They're based in Italy, and three of my most favorite decks, the Tarot, the Southwest Sacred Tribes, the Art Nouveau Tarot deck, and this one, which is my all-time favorite, are all produced by Scarabeo. They are a wonderful publishing company. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just, of course, just like in all publishing, you're going to have hits and misses, right? But what I love about this deck is that this is the Vice Versa Tarot. And Vice Versa means that it has a front and a back. There is no formal card back to this deck. And what is beautiful about it is that there are definitely some really gorgeous cards. First off, it's very modern digital technology. You see very clear faces. And there's so much nuance. Honestly, if the publisher decided to make this into a larger deck, because there's some jumbo-sized decks, all of my decks are regular shuffle-sized because my hands, but there is such detail in these cards. We just did the How to Tarot and the Nine of Swords. And what's beautiful is that one thing that I failed to leave out is that there's like a shadow of a person standing in the corner there. If you see it, it looks like a ghost. That's so eerie but so awesome. And I put some of my favorite cards on the front at the top of the deck to kind of give an illustration. This is the Seven of Cups. We haven't How to Tarot yet, but this will definitely be in it. And what's beautiful is that the reversal is considered the card in the inverse, and it really gives such a beautiful meaning. Like the Two of Swords, this was in How to Tarot. I love how it's just rocky waters, and when it's in reversed, everything is calm. Again, the detail is really, really gorgeous. And what's amazing is that, as you're shuffling, the way that it flips out in the reverse, you can have reversals that don't look like traditional reversals. Ooh! As I get the Seven of Swords in reversed. Oh gosh, guys. Do I have someone who wants to make I'm getting somebody who wants to sorry. This is weird, guys. I'm getting a reading as I'm doing a deck review. That's crazy. Somebody wants to make something right. I'm hearing make amends. Okay, not sure. It's related to the Two of Swords. Watch the How to Tarot for the Two of Swords. I'm sorry, guys. This is supposed to be a deck review. I don't know why that's coming out. I'm sorry. My decks like to talk to me, so. But that is a gorgeous deck. It's definitely worth money. It came out, it was published years ago, but it has such a popularity, and I can see why. There's a lot of, the other thing is that I will be showing this deck again in the, kind of the Renfest or D&D video that I'm going to post with my Oracle decks. But it has a little bit more of a Renfest kind of feel. It's not modern images, but the flip side with it having the reverse image on the back is just amazing. And if you want if you don't want to have to bother reading reversals, that's an excellent deck. Also, if you don't mind there not being a formal card back. And I have kind of a burlap bag that I made for that. The next deck that I have is the Linestrider Tarot by Cilio Thompson. And this is a gorgeous deck. I had to have this deck because, first off, the card back, it does have a formal card back, and it looks kind of like a Rorschach test. So if you're either a Watchmen fan or if you like that kind of psychological kind of meaning, that's the back of the deck. And I love her artwork because, quite honestly, she has a technique of pen drawings with watercolor overlay. And that's just really amazing. And again, I pulled some of my favorite cards. Now, the card that sold me on this deck is the Queen of Swords. And actually, we're about to have a tarot on her in about 2 weeks. There are cards that we refer to as significators, a card that you take to represent a certain person in your life. So if you're familiar with card reading, you might not have a name, a label assigned to it, but it's basically when that card comes up, you think of someone and you know who that person is. And it's funny, when I look at all of my decks, and goodness knows I have 18 of them. Don't judge me, please don't judge me. I did not expect to have a significator card that represents me, but I'll come out and say it. The Queen of Swords in this deck, I feel like is me. I'm a sun sign Libra, and the way that she holds the sword, and again, if you check out the How to Tarot in 2 weeks, if you're watching this after the fact, please feel free to check out that video because I relate. I have curly hair, and just the expression in her eyes and the sense of fairness and the echo of justice, I feel like this is me. Now, the other thing is that I love the fact that in addition to being pen and ink, she has a lot of overlay. Like, for instance, this is the King of Swords, and he looks like crystals, right? He's very in his mind. He's very focused. He's very analytical. Now, the one downfall of this deck is that there are some a little unique or eclectic images. Like, for instance, you see the Knight of Cups, which is such a romantic card. But what you see is the overlay of what looks like a coffee ring and then like a fish and then a knight who's running straight at you. So just an honest feedback, when you're doing a read and you're thinking, oh, running in with a cup of love, and then you see what looks like a dead fish, sometimes that's it's a different interpretation, which is always welcome in tarot, but that's one thing to keep in mind if you're considering buying this deck. Now, this is the Eight of Wands, and what it is that there are different versions of this deck. The Eight of Wands, she actually had a different image, and I had actually wrote an email to the publishing company, and they came back and said, no, this is the current image of the deck. But they did have a different image that looked a little bit more aggressive, and they decided on the softer version of the Eight of Wands. The other thing that I really love is that she trades up between human images and more kind of animal depictions. So like here, I think of Aslan from the Chronicles of Narnia. And then one of my other favorite cups is the Six of Cups. And it's so cute. I think these are lemurs, if I'm correct. Please post if you know. And the other thing is we are coming up, actually next week, we're going to have a tarot on the Ten of Swords. And I know it's such a painful image, but she uses animals and humans and watercolor to really envision the tarot in a different way. And I was stupid excited to get this deck, and I still loved this deck. I turned to it many times. I need to use it more often. Sometimes when you have this many cards, sometimes you have to decide if you're going to let something go, if you're going to trade it out. There's another really great reader here who talks about, your tarot decks being like a pair of your favorite jeans. You know, if it is the deck that you use all the time, and if buying a new deck means that you're spending less time with this other deck, and that's how I kind of feel about the Linestrider Tarot. It's like I have all these, I keep looking at new card decks, and it's one of those things where I have to say, okay, am I using it? Does it mean the world for me? Because you do kind of want to purge. I would not encourage having this many, but you know, whatever feels comfortable for you and whatever ones you really connect with. Now, the fourth deck that we have is, this is, first off, another really pocket card. I love this bag. I'm proud of it. It's hand sewn. I made this by hand. And the stone that you see me also pair it with is a smoky quartz, and there's a little pocket for it. But it's a linen bag that I made by hand. So yes, I know I'm crazy, but this is what I do. This is what brings me joy. So, you know, no judgment. But we've got the Anna K Tarot. And the Anna K Tarot, first off, has a really beautiful card back. Half the reason that I pair the stone that I do with it is because it pairs so nicely, and a smoky quartz is really about cleansing. And you just see it when I put it, you know, it looks like 4 phases of the moon. And actually you see this image on the moon card, or what is it? It's the world. The world. It has all the stages of the moon cycles. But Anna K, I'll be honest, Anna K's artwork really reminds me of Marie Engelbreit, which I know is kind of an antiquated reference, but her artwork as an artist is fantastic. I'll be completely honest, I have no idea what Anna K's last name is. If you go on Amazon to buy the deck, you'll see it actually has her name, but I think for privacy reasons, she really does keep that confidential. So she is known to the world as Anna K, and I completely respect that, because again, in this day and age where everybody knows too much about everybody else, what is beautiful about her artwork is that I'll get to it in a minute, but the very first artwork deck I bought was an Art Nouveau deck that had a lot of pretty artwork, and I didn't know at the time. This was, well, you know, I'm not a spring chicken, so this was well before the time of the internet, where, you know, you needed a mentor to tell you that when you're learning the tarot, you really do need to start with something more traditional. But, you know, for you to learn the initial meanings, because if you just go for a pretty deck, you might not get the meanings. And actually, one of my bags, when I get to it later, one of my more recent decks, I made a bag for it, and it's funny, I made it from the same material that I had, my niece, my older niece, had gotten a deck of tarot cards, and it was the, what is it, the Wild Unknown? And the Wild Unknown, I don't own that deck, but it's very similar, and it's in the same theme where it's got really beautiful images, but unless you formally know the tarot first, like it's almost like you have to learn the tarot first before you get into the pretty decks, right? Otherwise you're going to be lost, right? And I feel like the Anna K is the perfect solution to that. If you do not want to learn the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, which is a little antiquated, it's beautiful artwork, but it's very turn of the century, and it's, let's be honest, it has a lot of patriarchal kind of images in it. The Anna K is really a beautiful alternative. First off, again, she has very, I'm not sure if it's, I don't mean to compare, because I know artistry is every artist is their own element, right? Their own entity. But Mary Engelbreit, it just looks very similar with the soft rounded edges. But some of my favorite cards, the thing I love about the Anna K is that if you have someone who's learning tarot and does not want like the stuffy traditionalist Rider-Waite-Smith, you know, God rest Pamela Coleman Smith, please forgive me, she will always be what is it, a gypsy to me. She will always be a free spirit and an inspiration. So I'm not judging that at all. But Anna K is really a beautiful, new, and easy way to learn the tarot. So if you have someone who's learning the tarot for the first time, this is a great deck to start with. Or if you're learning the tarot for the first time, the images are straightforward. And in addition to that, she gives such a beautiful comparison to the traditional symbolism. Like here we have the King of Swords. He's playing chess. right? That's such a poignant image. The Three of Swords, and I give Anna Kay mad props for this, because Three of Swords, you can look at 20 different decks and it's three swords piercing the heart, right? Which is very good, you know, it's the traditional image. Here you have a woman pulling a sword from her own heart, carrying them away, someone with a house burning in the background. It gives you so much food for thought. It gives you such food for thought. Nine of Rods. You see someone who's shielding themselves. You see someone who's refusing to concede. And what this can be is, this can be someone refusing to give in, right? And you see a really warm house in the background. You know, maybe they're being stubborn for something different. Now, Death is very poignant. It looks like a beneficial angel with a scythe, right? And it just has so much meaning. The other thing is the Four of Cups. If I had to pick any card that sold me on this deck, it would be the Four of Cups. We haven't had a tarot on it yet, but we're going to. And what's beautiful that's different from the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith is that it looks like this person is uninterested for some reason, right? And it's almost like they're jaded, or they're, you know, they're lethargic, or they're spoiled. There's so much meaning that you can glean from these images. The one other thing that I love, another card that I love in this deck, is the Eight of Rods. Because a lot of times you see those 8 rods flying through the air, but this really, you know, if you watch the How to Tarot, we talked about how it means that everything is coming together. Like, it's like that spark where things are finally moving in the same direction, like all blockages are removed. And she really encapsulated, she embodied that image with her artwork. So Anna Kay is a simple, beautiful, easy way to learn the tarot if you don't want to go with the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, and it's an excellent deck. It's very cost effective. It's one of those under $20 decks that you can get on Amazon. Next deck that we have is actually very special. This is the very first deck that I ever bought on Kickstarter. If you look on the back, it's really beautiful. This is the Slow Tarot by Lacey Bryant. And what it is Lacey Bryant is an artist based in California. And over the course of 8 years, she actually painted it was like 80 portraits. It wasn't even the traditional 78 in the tarot. And I did create a bag. I created a special bag, and this also has a pocket. I just wanted to show you. The stitches are really kind of raw, because this was before I had a sewing machine. But what it was is, what sold me on this deck is that the artist, she created these paintings by hand. These are actual real paintings. She spent 8 years, and what it is called the Slow Tarot because she wanted a new version of the tarot in her head that you could really pour over. And I loved seeing her story. She does have a video that talks about her inspiration for it. I'll post it underneath the link below in the description box. But she took so much time in her life to create these images. They are real paintings. A lot of them have already sold, but you might still find some of the original paintings. And what I loved about this deck is that she went on Kickstarter, which is where you bid to support the project, and if the artist reaches a certain goal, the cards become created and you get charged for it, and they send you the cards. So I do actually have the little card of authenticity, and so I was so excited when these came. What I love about this deck, now I'll be honest, I'll go through the cons first, just because there are very few cons with this deck. The only con with this deck, and I don't think this is any fault of the creator, is that when they arrived, they did have a little bit of kind of like a chemical smell. I think that the lamination process, maybe they didn't let the cards dry long enough. So I did have to kind of lay them out and let them dry. But again, this was after the Kickstarter project, so I don't know if reproductions of this card set would be the same. The other thing is that sometimes the kings and queens, don't exactly resonate with me. They're a little avant-garde, they're a little eclectic, but they are still beautiful. Like for instance, the Queen of Cups, she's very out there. She's got like shells as a crown. But what's beautiful is that what I love about the artist's work is that she's very diverse, and I love seeing that. It is not just, and I'm going to come out and say it, it's not whitewashed, and I don't like that. I don't like it when you see just 20 something, white people on cards. That's not what I'm looking for. I like to see different ethnicities. I like to see different cultures represented, and what's rich and celebrated about each of those cultures. The other thing that I love anytime I get into a tarot deck is anytime the knights are usually represented, like knights are usually people who are in their 20s. And one thing I absolutely love is that all of the knights, like the coins, the swords, the wand, not the wands, the cups, are all people in their 20s. But the Knight of Wands is someone who's older, and that is so apt because I feel like, and I how to tarot with the Knight of Wands in this deck, because the Knight of Wands is an eternal wanderer, right? He's not a 20-something. He'll be a 40-year-old bachelor, right? So I thought that was great. The other thing that I love is that she does depict the pages as children, and I love that because the pages, that just says so much. Like here's the page of rods, which is a camper, someone who's camping, and the Page of Cups. And this is just, oh my gosh, my heart just warms at the sight of this image. And we're about to have a tarot on the Page of Swords, so you're going to see this deck. The other thing is that the minors just speak so much. It really is a slow tarot where you can take your time and pour over the images. And this deck has definitely made an appearance in the card that sold me on this deck was the Four of Swords, and that made an appearance in the How to Tarot for the Four of Swords. So if you get a chance, please check that out. But it's a gorgeous deck. Overall, I love all the images. The Kings and Queens don't strike me as much, but definitely the pages and the knights are wonderful, and all of the minors are fantastic. And she did such a good job. The other thing is, again, the card quality is contingent upon the production company, not the artist. The other thing is that she does, Lacey Bryant is active on Facebook and also on Instagram. If you want to check out her artwork, excuse me, got the hiccups, please feel free to follow her because she is wonderful. Now, the next deck that I have is, I really wanted a tattoo deck. There's several tattoo decks out there, but the one that I was really drawn to, and I actually walked into a bookstore and started playing with cards. I do that. I'll walk into a bookstore, and if it's an open box, you can't blame me. But I went with the Tattoo Tarot Inked in Intuition. And there's quite a few tattoo tarots out there, but you can find this on Amazon. I think most of these decks are still found for under $20. So they're not that expensive. And again, if you connect with one, and this is like the one deck that you want to use, what I love about this deck is it is done by an actual tattoo artist that's called McMahon. And there's another artist. Again, with all these decks, it's like an author and an artist. So, both of them equally contribute to the production. The sun just has amazing detail. The Fool always really stands out to me too. The Moon is amazing. I think the majors, I always joke, if I could have a tattoo, I don't have any tattoos, but if I got one on my body, it might be the High Priestess, but you might have to fold over, make a happy face later. That's how it goes when you're my age. I love the Queen of Cups. The Queen of Swords is really fierce too. She looks like Red Sonja, and I think she's awesome. But the King of Swords as well is really cool as well. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that with this deck, it is what we call a pip deck, which means that when you get into the minors, there's not stories. Like the stories, the actual images are with the majors and with the court cards. Pip decks are where like any of the minors are just going to be like up, you know, if it's the Ace of Pentacles, you'll see one pentacle. Now, one thing I love about this deck, though, is that, yes, it is a pip deck in the sense that you'll see one pentacle, but it's usually elaborated on. So when I pull this deck out, I can look at it like you see a peacock and a rose. It gives me extra symbolism that I can actually build upon. Like even the little stars or the little squiggles or sometimes the little imagery inside the coins can really tell me a lot. So this is a good deck, but just bear in mind if you are new to tarot, you might want to go with something that you can read a little bit more with the minors. But if you are more experienced with tarot, you know it, you've read it before, then you know you're okay with pip decks. That one is a good one. And again, if you're a fan of tattoos, wow, that's a beautiful deck. It really is. Now, the next deck is near and dear to my heart. This is the very first deck that I ever bought. And this is a low Scarabeo. And I made the bag because it coordinates, and I'm a Libra, and everything has to be all aesthetic and pretty. But what it is it's Tarot Art Nouveau. And actually, when I looked at the copyright, it's 1996, which makes sense because I was a young thing back then. And this was the very first tarot deck that I ever bought. Now, the one thing that I did is I made the common mistake, and this was before YouTube. This was really before the internet started to come into its prime. So I didn't know that you were really supposed to. I mean, it's common knowledge, it's common sense, but you're really supposed to learn tarot in the basic sense before you get real into the fancy, pretty decks. And I didn't know that. So I bought a fancy, pretty deck because the artwork was gorgeous. Now, what sold me on the deck was the death card. And gosh, she's gorgeous. She has little skulls and she has this blue, and she does, you know what, November 1st is the Day of the Dead with the monarch butterflies in Mexico, and you know, there's not a single monarch butterfly, but I kind of look at her like that. She's taking off a mask, and I get such a sense of transformation from her. Now, what's beautiful about this deck is that the thing is that there is very Art Nouveau images, so you really, again, to reiterate, you have to know the tarot in order to read this. But after you've learned traditional tarot, and you see it, I use it in my weekly energy card readings. It's excellent to give a lot of elaboration. Like, this is the Three of Swords, and this gives such a beautiful, this almost gives me an image of betrayal through friendship, right? Which is not just the traditional three swords piercing a heart, oh gosh, you're going to have a lover totally rake you over the coals. It gives you different interpretations. All of the aces have a really glorious vista, and it just gives you such a beautiful tableau of Art Nouveau. So I almost thought I nearly sold this deck, but you know, it being my first deck, and you know, sometimes there is seller's remorse when it comes to tarot. I saw a funny meme that always says, you know, I just pray that if I ever pass away that my family does not sell my tarot decks for the value I said I paid for them. I did not pay this much. I mean, I paid probably $18 in the 90s for this deck. But some of the decks, the Art Nouveau is spot on. It's so gorgeous. The lighting doesn't do it justice. This is the Sun card. And you see the baby, you see the male, you see the crescent moon with the angel as a reflection. And it has all of the depiction. It has the name of the card in English and French and Italian. The Empress is another really gorgeous card, the lilies. And it's funny, when we get to my Spacious Tarot, the Emperor is represented by the poppy, and the lily in Lenormand means experience. So you can see this Empress is the counterpart to the Emperor. The other thing is the Wheel of Fortune is always a real gorgeous one to me. The blindfolded woman in front of the wheel. And again, just all of the Art Nouveau. Now, the only downside to this deck that I will caution you about is that there's a little bit of what I deem toxic masculinity, where all of the kings are real aggressive looking. It's like all of the women look very subservient. And even in the Lover's card, you see this tied in a bow, and you see this woman almost looking like she's getting pulled by her hair, you know, like she's owned. And again, you know, that's not really the artwork that, you know, it's a gorgeous image, but I do go, anytime I do readings, I bear this in mind, because that is one disadvantage. The cardstock is absolutely really good. It's this deck is over 30 years old, and there's no wearing at the edges, and I use it quite often. It's a really good deck. And again, that death card, oh my gosh, you know, so many times you dread getting death in a reading. When I use this deck, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, I feel like transformation. I feel kind of badass when I get the death card in that deck. Now, the next deck I'm going to go ahead and move on is the Morgan Greer Tarot. And oh my gosh, hello, my old friend. After I had bought the Art Nouveau deck, I really needed a traditional deck, and this is well before. This is years, decades before I bought the Rider-Waite-Smith that you see on my How to Tarot. I decided, okay, I'm not getting this, right? The images are gorgeous, but I'm not getting it. I need a traditional tarot deck. And I was really torn, but at the time, this deck stood out to me, and I went with it, and I've never made, this is the best decision I've ever made in my life. And actually, this is probably the first bag that I made with my sewing machine. It fits the decks really snugly, but what it is this is the Morgan Greer Tarot. And the Morgan Greer Tarot is a very 70s looking deck. It's borderless, and borderless really makes it look zoomed in, because there's no distracting kind of mat around it. And what I love about this is that the Morgan Greer is the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith in a beautiful 70s rendition, but it doesn't look dated. It doesn't look dated to me. It really, maybe it's my age, you know, this deck was actually created in the decade in which I was born. So maybe I feel an affinity for it, but you know, it's funny, I usually don't like artwork that looks, you know, I'll be honest, the 70s fashion I feel is really kind of tacky. I feel like we were really over the top, a lot of polyester. But what I love is that there are several tarot decks that came out in that decade that were fantastic. The other deck that's a parallel to this that I've had my eye on but I don't own is called the Aquarian Tarot. And it's very similar. I kind of joke, I refer to it as the Three's Company artwork. And what that is it's that real earth kind of palette. You see a lot of oranges, a lot of mustard colors, a lot of browns. But to this day, the Morgan Greer talks to me. It speaks to me so clearly. And it's just, it gives me very honest answers. The other thing that it gives me is that, again, it gives it in the zoomed in images. The card that always really speaks to me, wow, as I throw my, oh, sorry. Oh, gosh, guys. Oh, excuse me. Hold on a minute. All right. My cards are really speaking to me because I'm getting the Hanged Man in reverse like twice because I just knocked over my White Sage Tarot. But the cards that always speak to me is the Tower, just because the Tower is a very dramatic card, and it is dramatic here, but something about being close up to it and the way that it's depicted with the gray and the lightning, it speaks so clearly to me. And I think it's a little less gory with the shadows of the people falling, but it is just it just screams wake up call. The other thing is the Wheel of Fortune. I absolutely love this deck because you see two people who are on top of the world, but then as the wheel turns, you can easily fall off and be a page again. I feel like, you know, when you look at it, either in the upright or in the reverse, you see a hand turning the crank of something bigger in your life. I also love the Six of Cups. I feel like I just get such a warm feeling. Every time I pull this card, I feel companionship. I feel someone that you feel at home with, someone who is your home emotionally. The other thing is that with the Two of Cups in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, everything looks so pulled back. Here you were right up in the center of the action, and you see the eye contact between the two people, right? The other thing is that the Five of Pentacles, you see the stained glass and you see the two people hugging each other. Again, throughout this whole deck, I feel like you zoom in, you see what's important in the card. And even though it is all of the images are traditional, they're like an echo of the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, I feel like Rider-Waite-Smith came out in 1910, this came out in 1970. It's like a 60-year span of difference, but the cultural chord between them is so strong, and I can only imagine how modern it was for its time, and it really is a beautiful deck to me, and it always gives me very clear answers. So if you're in more of a vintage, or if you want more of a 70s deck, this or the Aquarian Tarot, but the Morgan Greer is definitely near and dear to my heart. The other thing is that one of the reasons I went with this deck is because I do go to a Renaissance festival in my state, and the card reader that I would visit all the time, she had a bigger version. She had like a jumbo version of these cards, and I always saw her use those, and I just felt a connection to them. Now, the next deck, you don't see these cards too often. I do need to use them more. But this is actually, this is The Art of Tarot by Liz Dean. Now, this is another pip deck, just like the Art and Intuition. The minors are just like, if it's the Six of Swords, you see 6 swords. If it's the 10 of Wands, you see 10 wands, right? And that's the definition of a pip deck, almost like a deck of playing cards. Any of these minors are not going to have a picture the way that the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith does. But what I love about this deck is that even though it's more of a pip deck, the majors and the court cards really have beautiful images. Liz Dean, I really like her writing style. She, just like any other authority on tarot, she is so knowledgeable. And this is really her baby when it comes to a tarot deck. The other thing is that the majors, this deck is not expensive, and the majors alone are worth it. The artwork is kind of like mixed media. You kind of see what looks like almost like a hodgepodge, but the moon absolutely, the lighting doesn't do it justice. Like the lilies, the stem of the lilies. The other thing is the devil card really has a beautiful depiction. You have an angel in one ear and a devil in the other, which really speaks of conscience, or, you know, giving in to base desires. The Wheel of Fortune is very different. It has, like, again, similar to the Morgan Greer, it has someone on top, but then you have kind of being an ass in the middle and then being a monkey on the way down. You know, and she actually has another book, and we'll talk about this in a minute, that gives descriptions. But one of my other favorite cards in the majors is Death. It really speaks of regeneration. You see a new tree growing, and then a dead tree kind of going into the cycle of life. And again, you see what looks like a newspaper print. It looks like mixed media with the images. Now, Liz Dean has several different books. If you watch my 31 Days of Tarot, my favorite Oracle books, 2 of her books are listed there, so please feel free to check it out if you want more detail. There is a book that comes with The Art of Tarot, which is like a traditional, smaller tarot book. But if you are interested in getting another book that's by her, Understanding Tarot actually displays the images from this deck. And, you know, again, the majors and the court cards are just so cool. And the history of, just like in the first video, if you are interested in the history of tarot, she is an expert, and she parallels her card deck with the history of the meaning of the card, and it is a wonderful reference if you are learning the tarot. Now, the next deck that we have is a vintage deck. It's also from the 90s. This is the Tarot of the Southwest Sacred Tribes by Violeta, and I'm sorry, the last name is escaping me, but the description, the name is in the description box. This is the card back, and what it is that this is a Native American based deck, but what it is that it just to stress, it is a traditional tarot deck. Like Three of Cups is Three of Cups, right? But it has Native American images. Now, one thing I want to stress is that if you are a stickler for traditional Native American practices, this is a modernized version. This is not going to be true to any of the more traditional individual and cultural references of different tribes of Native Americans. And I want to be clear about that because I don't want to do any disrespect to those cultures, because they are beautiful and they are unique and they have their traditions ingrained within them. This is really almost an Americanized, modern deck based on the tarot that uses Native American images. But I still love using this deck because it's beautiful in the way it depicts Native American art. What I love about it is, again, you have the same court cards, but they're given kind of a Native American faceplate. Like the Queen of Cups is always really drawn me to. Judgment I love because you see almost like cave, you see adobe paintings of people and animals, and it gives a real distinction of a higher power in play. The King of Wands, he looks like I always call him the Grand Poobah. He looks like the leader of his tribe, and he's so powerful and he's so dynamic, and I feel the energy off this card. The Moon card I used in the How to Tarot because it's so gorgeous. We talk about the base desires of the wolf versus the domesticated dog. And I'll be honest, when it comes to Native American heritage, I feel like there is a disparity. There's a separation between that, they originally were in the 1800s versus now, and the events that have occurred in their history. I just feel like, this is not meant to be a disrespect to their culture. I know it's a very, it's like, it's almost like a tarot faceplate using, Southwest images that are very heavily based in Native American folklore. But what I like about it is, for all of the images being, kind of like a, like almost like a wallpaper of tarot images. A few of the images are traditional, but I can still read them differently because of the artwork. Like, for instance, the Ten of Wands, he's holding 6, but there are 4 on the ground that he's collecting. So I can almost read that as 6 of Wands and 4 of Wands and still have the interpretation of 10. The other thing is that 8 of Wands, you still see them flying in the air, but, that looks like the same 8 of Wands that you would see in Rider-Waite-Smith, except, just kind of, but the different little images, like the 2 envelopes and the adobe in the background, I can glean interpretations from that. The other thing is that this card, the 5 of Wands, I've used this in readings, in the weekly energy card readings a lot. And I just love the way that there's little variances. Like, you see 5 people that are kind of up on a pedestal with their backs turned. I always just look at that and think, oh gosh, you had a falling out with some kind of clique. There's competition. Someone's trying to make you feel like you're lower than them. I like this deck because, yes, it is a little bit more of it's a washed version of Native American art, but it's still beautiful, and I still really read a lot in it, and I think the artist did a really beautiful job, and I think she represented both tarot and Southwest imagery really quite beautifully. Now, I lucked out and I got this deck for like less than $20 on like eBay or one of those card trading sites. Now, I did look up this deck recently to kind of give you a more up-to-date idea of the price point, and I'm seeing it go for like $80 on Amazon. Now, again, I am not encouraging you to drop $80. I would say that you could kind of wait a little bit. There are booksellers like Alibri or a lot of times you can go online. A few of my decks I got as that not only benefited charity but were at a fair price, like a market value. So definitely, if you're not seeing it at a good selling point, it could be that people are really marking it up ridiculously. And I would just say wait a little while. Just wait a little while. Don't spend a fortune unless you feel like it's a really rare deck, right? And if you're willing to spend that money, but you know, the goal in all of this is finding the deck that you connect with and that you will use. It's finding a right match for you. It's not spending $1 million because of a collection. That's the other thing, is that a lot of sellers will try to say, oh, well, this is a collectible because it's out of print. And I do say, when it comes to decks, be careful. You don't have to, don't get scalped because someone's trying to make a profit. Now, the next deck is a very special deck, and I use this almost on a daily basis. And this is the Spacious Tarot, and the authors of the deck are in the description box. I lucked out, and I made a beautiful bag. I always end up with stripes anytime I'm doing dots, but I'm proud of how it turned out. I make all of my bags, so... but I love this deck. I absolutely love this deck. Despite the fact that I own a lot of tarot decks, I do care about environment. I really do I live pretty simply. I don't spend a lot of money, and it's funny, I try to contribute to things that are pro-earth. And what I love about this deck is that all of the images, there are no images of people in any of the decks, right? And I think that's amazing because the artist did such a great job of depicting the tarot without using a human. And that's really hard to do. The card that sold me on this deck was the Star. And, I just went on vacation not too long ago, and looking up through the trees, up at the stars, away from city lights. I mean, the lighting doesn't do it justice, but this is an absolutely gorgeous card. The other card that sold me was the Hanged Man, and it's funny, the Hanged won. I did not see this card until it arrived, and I'm such a stickler for the lunar landing, for like the Apollo 11 mission. And 11 is like, today I'm filming this on 11/11, which is the 11/11 portal, and it's the two mirrors, right? It's divine masculine, divine feminine. It's the sun and the moon. And what I love about this card is, so many times the Hanged One or the Hanged Man is the same image, just like the Three of Swords, same image. It's the man hanging up by his foot. Here you see someone standing on the surface of the moon looking down at home. You're so far away. And have you ever been, sometimes when you go on vacation and you're so far away from home, it's almost like you're away from your problems. And it is like being hanged upside down. It's like being so far away from home or a situation that you can see it in a whole new light. And I was blown away. I was blown away by this card. It's the most gorgeous card I've ever seen in my life. Now, what I thought was great is that the only human image in this deck is the Death card, and it's really a skeleton, which is really an accomplishment. And not to be morbid or macabre, but when you think about it, how can you have a deck without a human being? And they pulled it off. The other thing is that the Six of Pentacles really spoke to me. A lot of times it shows almost like a bias, like one person paying more money to someone else because they have to. Here it shows levitating coins in like two nests. And it's like, which nest am I going to put this money into? Which one is more deserving? It speaks volumes for its simplicity. And mad kudos to these artists for the way that they did this. The way that they imagined this, I am in awe every time I use this deck. The other thing is the Devil. It's a beautiful silhouette of sunset, but it looks like bars, but all it is a forest of trees. And oh my gosh, I get shivers. I get shivers, guys. I get shivers. Then you've got the Ace of Pentacles, which looks like the seed. You know, you see those little helicopters. And Seven of Swords, you see, you know, just like the forest, you see 7 swords making shadows, but one that is crooked. And oh my gosh, guys, I mean, I'm telling you, for the simple images, this is not a pip deck. All of I just want to congratulate the authors of this deck, because this is one of my favorite decks, and it's absolutely beautifully done. I can't gush enough, because you took the traditional images of the tarot, made them all natural, omitted any humans from it, and still got all of the meanings of it across completely with so much depth. And like when you look at the Ten of Pentacles, I mean, what represents family, stability, tradition, the establishment, more than a round tree trunk? And it's like each one of those stars is one member of the family that reinforces the structure, you know? So this deck I turn to. This deck, you may not see it in the weekly energy card reading every week, but I turn to this deck daily. I turn to this deck daily. It is my personal deck that I turn to for my own use. And if you're a fan of naturalist art, we are going to be pulling it out when we talk about more natural decks. But definitely, you know, it's a good investment. I see that being a deck that's going to be around for a while because it's so well done. The next deck, I'm actually stupid proud of the bag of this, because I made the bag before the deck arrived. I just kind of measured it out. The next deck is my most recent deck, and I did do a flip through for it here on my channel. It's called the Star Seeker Tarot by the Van Mystic, and she is an Etsy creator. And she was wonderful to talk to. You know, I ordered this deck pre-pandemic, and of course, you know, the world is still going crazy. But she was wonderfully communicative and such a talented artist. But 2 of the cards that sold me on this deck was the Four of Swords, which we had a tarot on, and also the Seven of Swords. But this is a gorgeous deck. The colors are very blue, silver, and purple. And again, just like the Spacious Tarot, she re-envisioned, she gave the tarot a modern interpretation with the elements and the composition of the symbols. Like the Four of Swords looks like wind chimes, and it has a rainbow. The Two of Pentacles, and let me just tell you, the lighting does not do any of these cards justice. There's a real soft satin kind of matte finish, and you see a woman stepping on levitating stones and then holding and she's holding what looks like 2 pentacles, but really it looks like 2 moons or 2 worlds. And she's carefully balancing as she steps up from one levitating stone to the other. I just think that the imagery is really gorgeous. The artwork is just amazing. She, just like the Mona Lisa, uses several layers of, it's like layer upon layer of ink. She does, the Van Mystic does the same thing with digital art, where the darker cards, and again, I'm sorry, the lighting doesn't do it justice, like with the Tower, there's layers of nuance in this image, and it's so amazing. I even said, we did the walkthrough of the flip through of this deck on the channel. If you want to check it out, please look at my playlist. But even in the reverse, it's like, these cards have so much meaning. Like the world, the galaxy behind the shadow of the woman, just absolutely, it pops off the card, just the artwork and everything. Now, when I held a tarot, I did use this Three of Pentacles, and again, I feel like she put such a unique spin on the definition of this card, and I did use this card in the Three of Pentacles How to Tarot. So if you want to see more description of it, please check out that video. She did, in addition to this deck, she added one additional major arcana called the Womb. And again, if you want all the details about this card, please check out the flip through. It's here under my playlist for deck reviews. But the Womb is not, it's the 22nd card, and there's only 21 cards, including the 0 of the Fool, in the Major Arcana. So this is an additional card in this deck. And again, it's a beautiful card about surrender and about incubation. And if you want to check it out, please look at the deck review on my channel. I felt the Devil was really beautiful. I mean, it's funny, you know, for being such a deep card. But again, she uses the depths of imagery to really give, you know, meaning to the card. And the card that sold me on this deck is the Seven of Swords. I did the How to Tarot on the Seven of Swords, and I talked about it also with the flip through. But this is the card that actually said, okay, you know, I want to buy this deck, right? But the information is listed in the description box below, and she's an Etsy creator, and she's amazing, and it's a gorgeous deck. Now, one other thing is it is a thicker cardstock. If you look at it, it's like much taller than a regular card deck. It doesn't bridge shuffle as well, but you can still shuffle it well. It's just a very sturdy cardstock. Also, the other thing is that this is one of my deck that has gilded edging. It has a matte purple embossing on the edge of the cards. But normally I'm not a big fan of embossing, but on this deck I do not mind, because when you look at it, it does not transfer to the hand at all. Like, it is very well done. It feels soft and real supple in the hand, and it's one of those decks that I don't feel the urge to wash my hands afterwards, right? And I've definitely had decks that are like that, like, oh my God, what's transferring? It doesn't feel that way at all. She does have edging on it, but it feels like satin. It feels like the rest of the deck, honestly. And it doesn't flake. It's adhered to the card, and it doesn't interfere with any of the shuffling. You can do what I call the side shuffle, which is where you just kind of take the cards and you kind of let them fall one after the other, you know, alternating like this, and it shuffles very well that way. So there's no problem. It's no problem with shuffling. I honestly think a thicker cardstock is nice for the long time life of the card. Because what happens is sometimes as the more that you shuffle cards, you start to see that them start to wear at the edges, and that's usually kind of a sign of I won't call it a flimsy cardstock, but usually it's a thinner cardstock, and the lifespan of those are a little bit shorter. So just to bear that in mind. This is a very durable. She had that in mind when she created her cards, and honestly, when I look at this deck, her cards are really like little pieces of art. I just really think, you know. You know, one day if you didn't even read cards anymore, you could frame it in a little, you know, a little tarot-sized card frame, and it would be perfect. Now we're going to go into our final row. We are going to be talking about more of what I call my mini decks. Mini decks are not really mini, but what they are is that they're smaller. They're more palm-sized than a traditional tarot card. Most low Scarabeo is a little bit more narrow, and these cards are definitely smaller. Now the mini decks are nice because they do fit in the palm very nicely, and they shuffle pretty well. So these are a good deck if you know that you travel often, or that you just don't want a deck that takes up a lot of space. So that's definitely something to keep in mind when you're shopping for either for someone else or for yourself. One other thing I want to kind of interject is that a lot of times there's a saying in card reading where they talk about whether or not you should be gifted a tarot deck, like if it's bad luck to buy a tarot deck for yourself. I've seen a popular consensus that it really doesn't matter. It's not, you know, it's not bad juju if you go ahead and buy yourself a deck, but there is something kind of special about someone gifting you a deck as well. You know, I wouldn't read it as being any bad vibes or anything if you buy a deck, your first deck for yourself, but there is always something really special about, you know, someone buying it for you, especially if they know your taste and it you know, it feels like a good match. The next deck we're going to talk about is a smaller deck, and it's the Witch's Tarot by Ellen Dugan. And the card back is really beautiful. You see a galaxy sky with 3 phases of the moon. And again, this is what I deem as one of my mini decks. I have 5 smaller decks that are more palm sized. I am stupid proud of my little bag. I have a blue velvet bag, and with it you'll see a bunch of little stitches. It's amazing. I can't believe I used to do this, but I hand sew. Sorry if it focuses. I used to hand sew. And it's really amazing. I wanted a velvet bag for this deck because I just felt like it coordinated so well. And it was before I owned a sewing machine, and I actually had a friend gift me a sewing machine, so I'm so grateful for that. But so it's really neat. The when I close up this bag, it cinches, and you just see the edges of the gold lining, peek out from the closure of the bag. All of the bags that you see here I made myself, either with a machine or by hand. But one thing that I'm also really proud of the bag that I used for the Van Mystic one. That one turned out really good. But I'm sorry, back to the subject at hand. I'm sorry. 18 decks, and I start to get a little punchy. This deck is absolutely amazing. It's funny, all of my mini decks, with the exception of the Everyday Tarot, all of my mini decks I feel like I've seen in bigger versions, but for some reason and I'll go into the detail of that as we talk about the deck. But this deck, the Witch's Tarot, I thought that I did see. I see on YouTube other readers that seem to have a bigger version of this deck, like a regular card size version. But I'm not sure where they got it. I don't know if this was like print runs. Where maybe there was an original print run with the cards that was on the bigger cardstock. But the one that I went with was, I actually purchased this again through eBay. I'm sorry, I know that's so antiquated, but I found it on sale on eBay for like $6. And I know that's crazy, and I'm very careful about that. I try not to buy like wholesale or like discount, with merchants that might be looking like they're selling it, but what I kind of get is sometimes that might indicate a surplus. Sometimes it isn't anything shady. It could be just that they have a surplus of it. And actually this deck was without the book. It was just the deck itself, and it was sealed in plastic, so it was factory sealed. But I did think that was a little bit strange. I don't know how the cards got separated from the booklet, but I paid under $10, and that was like $2 for shipping. I had to wait like about 5 weeks for it, but it was definitely worth it. Now, the artwork of the Witch's Tarot, very similar to the Vice Versa Tarot, is that there's really real expression. There's real world expressions on the people's faces, and that's actually why a bigger deck might be actually kind of ideal, because you can actually get up close and kind of see you can glean more nuance from it when you're reading. But on the smaller card it's not too bad, but it is, it does make you squint a little bit. I wear glasses. And what I like is that I do call this one of my similar, when I do the other readings, I do kind of consider this one of my Renfest or D&D decks, because all of the images, they have like dragons, and they have arrows, and they have like tunics. It looks a little bit like medieval kind of time frame, but it's really nice. It still depicts things very well. And all of the minors, I think, are so beautiful, because they really do. Like the Knight of Cups puts a unique spin. Instead of it being a smug-looking man, it has a woman. And I love the fact that she's kind of pouring wine. It's kind of like, like she still has that kind of like I have it all expression, but you kind of see like an overabundance, and that really translates in the card. And I just think that's such a unique image. Also, with like the Eight of Wands, I love the fact that you can actually get a real sense of the vista ahead of you. You get that sense of motion. Same with the Eight of Pentacles. You just get that sense of like burning the midnight oil, and with the Crow, you see someone really, perfecting something. And I just feel like, just like the Rider-Waite-Smith, it puts a good spin on it. Now, one other thing that I love about it is that I love it when decks depict the pages as children. And you'll definitely probably be seeing this deck in the How to Tarot more often, because here we have the Page of Wands and we have the Page of Cups, and I just think it's adorable. I do also think that she doesn't allow gender to get in the way, you know, like not all the pages are boys, but I also love the fact that the Page of Swords is a little bit more of a preteen. He's kind of like a 12, 13-year-old. I do also love the fact that she does get a little mystical, but not too out there with the court cards. Like the Queen of Cups, she is popping out of a shell, but it's not like she has a mermaid tail or anything. But I do just glean such a sweet and emotional maturity from this card. I feel it. Now, one other thing that I kind of giggle at is like with the King of Wands, and actually that he was in the How to Tarot, is that Ellen Dugan really hits on some of the little unspoken kind of features of some of the court cards. Like, for instance, you know, the King of Wands is the mature masculine. He is impulsive, but he definitely knows how to rein in his impulses. But what I thought was funny is that, and this is going to get mature for just a minute, if you kind of notice where his hand is, that is one feature of the king that you don't talk about so much, is that he can be a little randy, right? Just like all of the other fire suits, he's pretty sexually aware. And I just, every single time I see that card, I'm like, oh my God, it's the cocky king. I refer to him as the cocky king. And she kept that nuance in the meaning, right? A lot of the other meanings are very, you know, pretty innocent, but she keeps it true, and especially in the majors and in the minors. Now, my favorite card, and the card that sold me on this deck, is the Five of Wands. And what I love about this is that, you know, if you watch the How to Tarot on the Five of Wands, and this was in that, is that you see 5 dragons and 5 riders, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the thing about wands is it's competition, and it's equal competition. And what I think is awesome is this is like the Tri-Wizard tournament, right? You have no idea. All of the dragons look badass. All of the riders look fierce. Who's going to win, right? Who's going to win, right? And that's what sold me on this deck. And I was just like, oh my God, that's an awesome card. But that is a card, you know, that is one deck. There's actually like there's 2 decks here that I would gladly upgrade if they made it in a bigger version. But right now I've only seen it available in the small version. But I've seen readers, and it's funny, this deck has the black border, as does the Sun and Moon Tarot, which we're going to get to in a minute. And the bigger version of it has a white border. So I'm not sure if the Ellen Dugan was under a different publishing house before and something changed. But I don't really see the bigger version. I see the smaller version for sale. And again, it probably would be around $20. It is a mini deck, but it comes with a book. I didn't get the book, so I bought this for like, well less. It was under $10 when I purchased it. But it's a different experience for everyone. I did not go through the regular channels, but I do value this deck very much, and it is it's definitely a deck that you'll be seeing coming up in the How to Tarot quite often. Now, the next deck is not a mini deck, but it is a vintage deck, and oh my gosh, guys. This one is near and dear to my heart. This deck came out in 2006, and it is not in print anymore. It is by Lo Scarabeo, and this is the back of the deck, and this is my beloved Jane Austen Tarot. And what it is this is a deck that was created by Lo Scarabeo, and there's a coordinating book that goes along with it, and I'm just going to show you the book real quick. It's called The Tarot of Jane Austen. And it is by Diane Wilkes, and I am very grateful that the retreat that I went to last year was hosted by both Mary K. Greer, who is the author of Pamela Coleman Smith's An Untold Story, and she is also a very knowledgeable veteran career tarot reader, tarot author. And also Diane Wilkes is the author of Tarot of Jane Austen, and she is so well known. She knows Jane very well. And what happened is there's not very many decks that show Jane Austen. It's like one of those theme decks, just like when you see Game of Thrones deck, or the latest theme deck has been Nightmare Before Christmas. But Jane Austen, you don't see come out very often. You see resurgences every once in a while. I'm actually really excited because Diane, I was very lucky to meet her at the retreat, and I know we talked at the retreat, so we keep in touch through social media. And she is coming out with a Jane Austen Lenormand. And actually, a later video, I'm going to be talking about all my Jane decks. I have 5. I have 3 Oracle decks, a Tarot deck, and then there's going to be a 4th Oracle by Diane Wilkes. There is actually only 2 additional decks that I will allow into my collection because I've got a lot of cards. But one of those decks is going to be the anticipated Diane Wilkes Jane Austen Lenormand, and that's going to complete my Jane collection. But I will have a separate video on this while I will bring out this deck again. But this is the Low Scarabeo Tarot version of Jane. And I am in awe because I am, again, I'm an author. I am an English major. I have a bachelor's degree in English in technology and discourse. I have read Jane. I have read all of her books. I have seen all of the movies, BBC, not BBC. And what I loved about this deck is that the images, first off, the aces are non-traditional in the sense that, like, the Ace of Wands is the Ace of Candlesticks, the Ace of Quills, Ace of Swords is the Ace of Quills, the Ace of Pentacles is the Ace of Coins, and the Ace of Cups is the Ace of Teacups. And what's beautiful is that underneath you see one book from each of her stories. Now, what I love is that the minors really are different. They put a whole new spin, and they refer. And again, this is, Diane Wilkes. I lucked out and got the book. The book is usually ridiculously overpriced because both the book and the deck are out of print. The book, normally, people will try to sell it for $100. And I felt like it was the universe smiling upon me, and doing what's right. I found the book for sale for $25, and the proceeds benefit charity. And so I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a blessing. So I snatched up the book, and it's one of those things where if you can get a hold of the book, if you're not, you don't have to be like a Jane Austen nut like I am and know all the stories. You can read the book along with the cards and really get a great story from it. But what I love about this deck is that the literature, all of the stories of Jane Austen totally play into the readings. And actually, if you look at my playlist, every year on Jane Austen's birthday, I do a Jane Austen reading, and it's what's your Jane Austen love story. I'll do that again this year. But I pull out the Jane deck, and we do it. And I get such clear imagery because I know the storylines. But what I love about this is, like, this is the 3 of Candlesticks, which is like the 3 of Wands. And you see the 3 masts of the 3 different boats. And this is Frederick Wentworth from Persuasion. Now, what you also see is that I love the fact that the characters play into, you get such a thorough meaning. Like, for instance, the Maiden of Quills is the Page of Swords, which is a real immature energy. And what you see is Emma painting a picture of Harriet Smith, which is her best friend. And it just gives you, if you've read the story, you just know how, she's a privileged young lady who hasn't really experienced the world. She's kind of naive, and she thinks she knows it all. And it gives you such a new interpretation of the Page of Swords. The other thing is, like, the Knight of Coins, which is the slowest moving knight in the deck. And you've got Edward Ferrars standing outside the door, outside the house where Eleanor Dashwood lives. And he's holding the ring that holds, when he was young, he got engaged to someone else, and he's still committed to that previous engagement, but yet he wants to work his way back to Eleanor, right? He wants to find a way out of his predicament, but it's going to take a really long time. So I just think that's amazing how they take these stories and apply it to tarot. The other thing is the Six of Swords. We had a tarot on this, and this card was part of it. I love the fact how, and this is from Persuasion, and this is Frederick Wentworth, and how he had just been turned down by Anne Elliot. It broke his heart, and now he, you know, he's turning towards his career. He's going to war with the British Navy, and he's going to go away for 8 years. And what is he doing? He's getting in a boat and going to calmer waters, right? I mean, it's just, you know, the stories just play into it. And even the Five of Swords, you see here Emma, very full of herself, this is when she insults Miss Bates at the party, the garden party. And she just, you know, it really is that Five of Swords, verbal defeat, right? So these cards just speak so much, but the card that really got me, the card that sold me on the deck, even though it's Jane and there's no need to sell me because I love it, I love it all, is this one, which is the Tower. And this also is from Persuasion. And what it is there's an event where Louisa falls and hurts herself. And that is just the catalyst. That's the moment. That's it's a fall, right? It's a fall. And that moment in time totally breaks down. It breaks up. Everybody is going down a wrong path, right? It's everything, all of the storylines are built on a faulty foundation. And this one action in the story totally breaks all that down. And it's like a reset. It's like a hard reset, and puts everybody back on track where they'll end up with the persons that they're supposed to end up with. So I love this deck. I'll be honest, I had to wait a long time to find it. I kept having to search eBay, and I finally, I know I'm an eBay nut, but you know, I know that's so antiquated. But I finally found it on eBay for $60. That was like the starting bid. It was a very lovely tarot reader in Iceland. She's so sweet. It was an international thing. I probably paid like $15 US to have it shipped. And I waited 6 weeks willingly, you know, happily. But the owner of the deck, this was a pristine. It was kept in perfect condition. The owner of the deck was, what I love about the tarot community is that sometimes if you do decide to part with a deck, and there are people who are reputable, who aren't going to mark it up astronomically. Yes, it has a lot of value, and you know, $60, you know, you paid $20 for it, or $25 back in 2006, you know, close to 15 years later, and it being out of print, you know, it was not, and you know, the bids of it, but the owner of the deck was very careful to make sure that she sold it to someone who would appreciate it and would not just turn around and sell it again. And she was just so wonderful. And I was lucky. It is one of my higher price decks. Again, if you are looking for a deck like the Tarot, the Southwest Sacred Tribes, or the Jane Austen, or any that might be out of print, you might have to wait a little while. I always say just, you know, wait and search, look at Alibri, look at any of the, you know, any websites that sell used books. Check eBay frequently. You know, you do still find very reputable sellers who are not out to scalp you, right? That aren't gonna, you know, do anything shady. And so I was very blessed. I got my cards, and then about 2 months later, I got my book. And I know everything. I don't know everything, but I know quite a bit about Jane Austen, but I do still reference the book, and it's a wonderful, I just feel so blessed. I felt like that was, you know, the universe, you know, giving me a gift. Now, the next deck is another little deck. This one is a little bit wider, but it fits so nicely in the palm. And I just want to say real quick, this is one of, I'm so proud, I'm stupid proud of this bag. I'm sorry, I got to show you guys. You can see it, it looks like a stitch mess on the inside, but I used like real silk and real like ribbed fabric. The ribbons are so thick. It's funny, these ribbons are repurposed. They tied up the box of one of my like Coach purses, and it's so quality. I just, you know, I don't know, I'm a hypocrite because yes, I like to buy cards and stuff, but I don't like throwing away things, especially when they're quality. But the bag, I took careful, it was before I owned a sewing machine, so I actually made it by hand, and I'm still so proud of how it turned out. But this deck is the Everyday Tarot by Brigitte Esselmont. And Brigitte Esselmont is known as Biddy Tarot, Biddy. And Biddy Tarot is a very big influencer. She has a website, and she has tutorials on tarot. She has a directory that gives you all the meanings of tarot, and she's just so influential. She's one of the cornerstones of modern understanding of tarot. And this deck is available on Amazon, all your major channels. And what it is it's her version of the tarot. And what's beautiful about this deck is, first off, it's just like the Starseeker Tarot. It's a very thick cardstock. It does also have a gilding. It has an embossing of gold. It's a very satin feel. And I'm not big on anything that might flake off or have some kind of residue. And I've never had a problem with these cards. These cards are well done. The embossing is smooth. It does not transfer. It does not flake. I've never had a problem with it. It shuffles pretty well. It does not it does not bridge, but you can do what I call the waterfall, which is, just letting it kind of fall one after the other, and it shuffles just fine. What I love about this deck is that it's a little bit wider than any of my other mini decks. It's not as long, it's kind of short and wide, but it still fits in the palm so nicely. So it's great if you are looking for a stocking stuffer for someone, or if you're looking for a travel deck. It really is a perfect everyday deck. And what I love is that with 3 basic colors, she has it in a tri-monochromatic pattern with white, gold, and purple. And the images speak so well for, it's almost like a very simple and streamlined kind of images, very smooth lines. And what I love about it is that the gold is not real shiny. It's kind of a muted gold, but it still shines. And the contrast between the 3 colors just gives so much depth. The star is absolutely gorgeous. The lighting really doesn't do it justice. And then she does get a little bit mystical with the court cards. Like the Queen of Cups is a mermaid, but you can again see with the 3 different colors, she really fleshes out the personality of that queen. The Queen of Pentacles is gorgeous. You still get that little rabbit, and you get that sense of Earth Mother. I love the King of Wands because you see in his hand he's holding a flame, and you feel the maturity off that card, even though he looks like a younger kind of man. You get all of the nuances, like of impulse and action, without losing any of the other meanings of maturity and kingliness. My favorite card in this deck is the Empress, and what I love is that you have the crown of stars, and she's holding a pomegranate, and then her earrings are the symbol of Venus, and then you see her pregnant stomach. I just think it's such a gorgeous image. So I really think that she's a really beautiful, it's a beautiful deck. It's a simple deck. And again, if you're new to card reading, or if you just want a card kind of start off simple, maybe you just want kind of like a more travel deck or something that's easy for someone, this is a really gorgeous deck to go with. And it's a good price, it's a good quality, and the images are very stunning. Now, the next deck that we have is by US Games, and if you look at the card back, again, this is like, again, it fits in the palm really well. It's a little bit longer, but it's still a mini deck. It's black and white and has the beautiful mandala on the back. And what this is this is the Sun and Moon Tarot by Vanessa DeCourt. And this is another deck that I have seen other readers on YouTube use in a bigger version. Like I've seen like the regular card size version of this. And I'm not sure if this was published previously with a bigger set and then later went to being small, but I've only ever seen it in the small version. The small version you can get on Amazon or any major retailer. It comes in this beautiful 10 box, so you don't have to keep it in a bag if you don't want to. Of course, I'm a bag nut, so I create bags for everything. I created a black and white bag for it. And what I love about this deck is that the images are, the first of all, the images are beautiful in the artwork. They almost look kind of like dolls in the way that she drew them. The other thing is that they convey a lot of meaning with very, very, she really did embody a new interpretation. She pulls from inspiration of both Hebrew and modern, like I sense a lot of Kabbalah in these images. At the top of the deck, she puts a symbol of the element. So for instance, if it's cups, you'll see the element for water. If it is, again, you'll see it with water on the next card. But if it's a fire card, you see the emblem for fire. With the minors, she has the name of it, but she also has a keyword at the top, which I think is really nice. I just love the images because, like, here you see 3 cups floating in the water and 2 on shore, and all of the flowers look like they're wilting, yet she's still, it's like she's mourning for the cups that she can't reach. In the 7 of Cups, I think it's just so amazing. You see 7 sinking cups, but then you see 2 people kind of embracing and looking like they're almost about to be overcome. And it really does. It kind of gives you the sense of being overwhelmed by lust or debauchery. The Fool is really beautiful because it's amazing. You see this guy chasing a butterfly. He has the symbol of Mercury in his backpack. And he's about to step up the ledge because he's paying attention to the butterfly, but he's got a lion about to grab him and he's about to step into the mouth of a crocodile, but the sun is still shining above. I think the moon is amazing. I think with very few symbols, you see the symbol of Pisces, and again you have Hebrew imagery, the 2 wolves and a woman sitting on the crescent moon. I just think that's so powerful. The star is one of my most beautiful images. You see pyramids and you see what looks like a mermaid, and then you see what looks like the Star of David just swirling in the sky with all the stars in its gravity. It's so powerful. Now, one of my favorite cards, and I know this is a little strange, is we've got the Devil. And I like the fact that you see them in a spider web and you see someone kind of standing above him. With this card, with that meaning of being like, not letting anybody control you, letting go of codependency, I just think that it speaks volumes. The other thing is I do think Judgment is amazing. She has alternate names like Ion, but all the symbols, again, we have Hebrew symbolism. She does also have a lot of, she also has a lot of diversity in this deck. There's definitely, not all of the people represented are Caucasian, and I like that. I like when there's diversity of both age and sex, gender and ethnicity. But it's a really gorgeous deck because of the details. I mean, again, there's such beautiful images in it. It being a smaller deck, I wear glasses, so I have to squint sometimes. This would be one deck that I would consider buying again if it came in a bigger version. But definitely, if you love the elements that are in, the symbolism of this deck, then this would be a great travel or pocket size, or someone, that didn't, if you don't want a bunch of big decks, this would be a perfect for that. Now, the next deck is also by US Games, and this is really quite beautiful. First off, this bag is yet another one of my hand sewn. Before I used the same material. I call it my rock rug material. It's very thick. It's almost like a carpet kind of material. I think it was meant to be like either for fabric or, like upholstery fabric, but I ended up making little pillows for my stones, and I love this bag. I feel like it was perfect. It goes with the cards so well. But what it is this is the back of the deck, and this is the Zillick Tarot, and this deck is created by a German watercolor artist. And oh my gosh, is she so talented. This is probably one of the most beautiful decks I've ever seen. And what it is that this deck is all watercolor images, and with it you'll see the name. So it is all of the minors do have a story or have an image, and it does have a keyword at the bottom. Now, what's beautiful about this is that it does have that lovely layering to it. One disadvantage of it is that with the minors, you know, just like when you look at a traditional tarot deck, the Six of Cups, you think of reconciliation, you see two children offering a cup to one another. Here you see what looks like someone, you know, swimming underwater and playing with a snake. And, you know, and it says pleasure. Sometimes a few of these cards, I do kind of scratch my head a little bit, but a lot of them do have a beautiful symbolism. Like you'll see a rose, you'll see a woman kind of reclining, and it says prudence. You know, when I pull these cards out for a read, it really does express a lot. I do get a lot from it. The other thing that I get that I think is really beautiful is that, well, one other thing that you bear in mind is that while most tarot decks have a page, a knight, a king, and a queen, the pages in this deck are called princesses. The knights are called princes. The queens are queens, but the knights are kings. And so that is something to bear in mind if you feel like, okay, you know, if you're new to tarot or you feel like keeping all of that straight might be confusing, this might not be a good starter deck for you. But what I love about it is that, you know, like here, the Knight of Discs is the King of Pentacles, and the Queen is the Queen. I think this is a beautiful Queen of Swords. I love the fact that she has masks at her feet, and then her crown is made of crystals, which indicate focus. The Ten of Cups is really beautiful because you see what looks like a mother and a child, and it says satiety. Two of Cups, which is love. You see someone holding a cup with two fish. The watercolor imagery is just really gorgeous. The Hermit has always been a favorite of mine because he just looks like a yogi who's meditating, and he looks like he's hovering over mountains, like he's levitating above his problems. The sun is so bright and vibrant, and what I love about the Wheel of Fortune is that you have kind of a gray bottom, but so if you look at this card in the reverse, you know, it's almost like the less fortunate turn of fate. The other thing that I love about this deck is that the Empress and the Emperor look like they're facing one another. And again, I always have to remind myself this is watercolor, you know. I looking at it, you know, I could just look at it up close and be like, wow, I can't see where one line ends and another begins. And I feel like it's just really, it's a good, if you're really into cards for more of a dream interpretation kind of, if you really kind of want to go slow and kind of, you know, roll over the meanings, this would be a wonderful deck. Now, my favorite card is the High Priestess, and it's absolutely amazing. She does also have Hebrew markings at the bottom of the majors, and I just love the fact that it looks like a yin and yang. It looks like dark and light. It looks like the two sides of the veil. She does almost look like a Christian nun in the way and her knowledge. She does also look like a Vestal Virgin. And I just feel like that's the most gorgeous card of the deck. All of them are really lovely. The Ten of Cups is another really, you know, beautiful one. Or I'm sorry, the Ten of Pentacles. But it's a gorgeous deck. I don't know if they ever made a bigger version. I haven't seen a bigger version of it, but this deck, you could enjoy it in both the small version or a larger one. But the smaller one does also come in a tin box, which is really great for storage. If you do end up buying several of the US game ones, they stack really nicely in the tin boxes, and it's a gorgeous deck. It's really under $20, and again, you know, if you're doing it as a gift for someone, you know, you can't go wrong with that. It fits in a stocking, and it would be really great for a tarot lover, for who wants to, you know, a new fun deck. All right, guys, so it's been a long haul. We had 18 decks, and here we are on the last one. This is yet another US Games, and again, this is a credit to them because these mini decks are really amazing. Now, this is the White Sage Tarot by Teresa Hutch. I'm sorry, I'm getting my author's names confused. Teresa Hutch. Now, the weave back is exactly the same. This is the same size as these other decks from US Games. It's a little bit more of the narrow and long, but it does fit in the palm. And what it is that I know for a fact this deck did start as like either a Kickstarter or some kind of privately funded publishing, like independent publishing, because I have seen there's other readers who have the bigger version. So the Kickstarter or the beginning project was the bigger version of this deck. And it had borders, it had white borders. And then later US Games purchased the rights and made it a small deck, made it a mini deck. Now, you can still find it. Like, there was one time, again, with my whole theory, if you're looking for either an out-of-print deck or a vintage deck, if you wait and just kind of search periodically, it might come up for sale eventually. I did see original deck, the bigger version of the White Sage, and it wasn't too bad. It was like around $30. But it's really up to you. Again, I feel like buying the bigger version is important if there's little details, like definitely the sun and moon. I feel like that would be important because there's just so many little details that you kind of have to squint to see, especially with like the border of it, you know. It's like that being in a bigger size, either that or the Witch's Tarot, that would be another one, you know, to get all of the little details. Now, the White Sage Tarot, I don't think that you necessarily have to go for the bigger deck to get everything. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's definitely it looks like a painting kind of deck. The other thing I love about it is that it does also come in an aluminum tin, so it does stack. Again, if you don't want to do bags, that's just my thing. What I love about this deck is that it is a pip deck, and again, a pip deck just like the Tattoo Tarot or the Art of Tarot. A pip deck is where all of the minors, like if it's the Six of Swords, you see 6 swords, right? But I do like the fact that instead of just seeing 6 swords, it does add extra elements. Throughout all the cards, there are ribbons of different colors, and the ribbons represent a color of the chakra. So just like, you know, it gives you more that you can read, and also the placement of the swords, the way that it's laid out, really helps you interpret it. Like, for instance, the 6 of Swords and the purple ribbon kind of means enlightenment. It means the crown chakra. It means moving away from your problems or rising above your problems. Then you've got like what I love is that this is a very natural deck. All of the wands are pussy willows. All of the swords are swords. All of the pentacles are sand dollars. And then all of the cups are coffee cups. And we're going to get to that. And you know I love that. But here, the Ten of Wands is great because you see it's tied up in a knot by a green ribbon, which is the heart chakra. And then what you'll see is some culmination cards have rainbow ribbon, which kind of means a completion of you going through all of your chakras, right? You know, going from root to sacral to solar plexus to heart chakra to throat chakra, third eye, and then crown. And so that's kind of like the culmination of the cycle. What I love about the different suits is that they are all animals, and I think that's so creative. Like the wands are birds, and I think this is the cutest King of Wands. He looks he does. I love how, you know, it's amazing. The King of Wands always has his own little ego, but you can just read that on his expression. And what I love about the cups is that all the cups are otters. And the cups, like the Knight of Cups and the Page of Cups, they're offering coffee. And I just think that is the most adorable thing I've ever seen in my life. So here we go. Here's the Knight. There you go. And it's so cute. And even the Queen of Cups, she's an otter. They have leopards. And the Empress is a sea lion, which I think is really beautiful. But it's a very natural deck. And the sand dollars are so calming. And I would just say that if someone that you love is a tarot reader and they're a fan of like more ocean or animal, or if they study Reiki or chakras, this would be a good deck for that. Also, the colors in the background also kind of, the green here talks about the heart chakra, the yellow here talks about the solar plexus. I love the hangman in this deck because it shows a caterpillar. And I've talked in other readings about how that chrysalis, when you see that J shape, that's the caterpillar freezing in the position before they become caterpillar soup. It's, them using all of their energy. They're paralyzed in that position because they're about to go through metamorphosis. And the hangman really talks about that pause when you're seeing the higher purpose of things, like the higher reason for an action, right? And refraining from action. Now, the other card that I really love is I love Justice, because it's a lot of the majors have really different kind of interpretations, but one thing about Justice is that in ancient Mayan lore, which got a little gory at times, but it talked about weighing your heart against a feather, and if your heart was lighter than a feather, that you lived an ethical life, right? And I know that seems more theoretical, like nobody's heart would actually be lighter than a feather, but just the very theory of it, the very idea of it really speaks a lot. Like you can go to the afterworld with a clear conscience, and the judgments that we have, did you live your life by your morals? Did you live an honest life? But one of my favorite cards, of course, is the Ace of Cups. And here, the Ace of Cups is a latte cup. And oh my gosh, that was the reason I bought the deck, of course. And I know that's so kind of superficial, but one caution is that the majors are really beautiful in this deck. And again, you see descriptions of things. But a few of the cards are a little bit more interpretable. Like here you have the High Priestess and you see the author's cat. And then later on, and there you go, you got the Knight of Wands. Sometimes things like the sun, it has a sun beetle and the tower. There's been a few flip throughs that kind of found fault with it. I don't think any of the images in the majors are bad. Some of them do make you think. But I just, again, like the Hermit, you got a sloth. And then the Wheel of Fortune. There's definitely some Egyptian kind of imageries in this with the beetle and what is that? Is that Ra or Osiris? I forget the name of but so yeah, there are some things that are interpretable where you kind of have to look it up. But I do think that I think it's no different than when I pull out a deck, I don't use this deck all the time, but when I do, when I feel gravitated to it, like if I feel called to use it, I definitely always see something, usually in the ribbon or the chakra meaning. And again, the coffee cups are really cute. The sand dollars are really wonderful. And even if I do get a major that I kind of scratch my head, I always think that's a good thing, because every deck, it seems like every deck might have one card that you kind of have to, what I call the stretch. You have to stretch for, kind of see. But it never fails. The more you use it, the more that you'll, see something that you didn't see before. And that's the last of my mini decks, and that is a really gorgeous deck. And definitely if you have someone who loves the ocean, if you have someone who loves nature or animals, who loves coffee or chakras, doesn't mind it being a pip deck, that's a really great one. It's under $20. It comes in a steel aluminum tin, and it makes a very good stocking stuffer or gift for your holiday. But wow, guys, oh my gosh. So I knew this was going to be crazy long. All the other videos that I post are not going to be this long. I am going to post other ones that are themed, like self-help, my flower decks. Those videos are going to be like 10, 20 minutes tops, I promise, because we're not going over 18 decks. But I hope you enjoyed. This is my tarot collection. I feel like it has served me well. In the future, you know, who knows, I might part with one or two of them, but a majority of them are very dear to my heart, and they've meant so much. And when you think about it, you know, I think of tarot decks like being books on a bookcase. You know, I definitely do not have more tarot than I have books. So, and they mean a lot to me. The artwork means a lot to me, and they've given me a lot, you know, in practice on this channel and in the personal readings for myself. But I hope you enjoyed. If you're so inclined, please leave a comment. Please tell me what you think. I hope this has inspired and given some insight, or, you know, given some information about what's out there. If you do get a chance, if you want some history on the Rider-Waite-Smith, please check out the first video. And I hope to catch you guys in the next video. See you later. Bye.